So this one answers the question, how do I do lighting? And this is primarily in 2D games is what we're working on. So how do we do lighting in 2D games? It's easy enough to add lighting, but how do we actually make it work? So what I've done is I've created a new Unity project, 2D defaults, and all I've got inside of it is a main camera. I just changed, the only thing I did to it was change the background color from blue to this gray. And I have a white PNG, just a square, 100 by 100 pixel PNG that I dragged in and put into our scene. So in our game view, all we see is this white rectangle. And so if we wanted to put some light onto it, we can say create light. Let's do a point light. And here's our light, and I'm going to move the center of it over here a little bit and up. And if we look at our game view, there's really nothing that has changed. But our light is white, so maybe it has something to do with that. I'm just going to change it to red, and that doesn't do anything. And the reason it's not doing anything, there may be a couple reasons, but one of them is that this white object doesn't have the correct shader on it in order to handle any kind of lighting. Typically lighting we'll use in 3D environments to cast shadows and things like that, but we can also use it to give really cool effects in 2D. And I'll leave it to you on how specifically you want to use them. But how to get our light to show up on these 2D textures is may not be obvious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this white, and I'm just going to put it down here, to put a second one down here. And we're going to modify the shader that goes on this bottom one so that it will actually reflect some light. What we have to do is put a material on it. So I'm going to, down here in Assets, I'll right click and create material. And we can, I don't know, just call it 2D. And what we need to do, now with this material selected, we can go up here to shader, and we can select a shader that's going to reflect some lights. If we go to Legacy Shader and bump Diffuse, now this will start to reflect light if we have it in our scene. So I'll go back over here and select our second white rectangle, which is the bottom one, and then I'll drag our new material onto it, and that should start to reflect some light. So if I hit play, let's see. It's still not reflecting. We don't see any real red color in here. But let's start to adjust our intensity and maybe the Z value of where our light is. Let's move it in. There we go. So now when I moved it all the way in, close enough to it, and so this again, this does start to make sense. We need to take into account all of our positions, our X, Y, and Z, because the position of the light is going to affect how it looks. And so now that I've got we've got it close enough, we can start to move the light in and out and see the difference. And then also notice that this image here isn't being affected with it because it doesn't have this material on it. Only the second one, this bottom one that has material on it, is starting to reflect the light. And so you can do all sorts of fun stuff with the light. You can change the intensity. Maybe, you know, you could even give this thing like a more of an orange color or something in this range, and then it might start to look like, could look like a little bit of fire or like some lights from a torch. And in your code, if you change the intensity of it like this, it might look like it's flickering, that kind of stuff. But notice it's only going to affect the images in your scene that have this material applied to it. If it doesn't have a material on it, it's going to look just like whatever the PNG looks like. So that's how you can get lighting to work in a 2D environment in Unity.